Let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're looking at a deeply personal and frankly fascinating biomedical perspective on autism. We're drawing from biohacker Dave Asprey and warrior mom Tracy. Both bring some incredibly intense experiences to the table. Dave actually talks about reversing his own Asperger's syndrome as an adult just by fixing his biology. And Tracy, she shares her relentless, no stones unturned path to help her son recover his lost developmental milestones. Together, they lay out a biological, alternative view of what autism actually is, and more importantly, how we might actually address it.
So what causes autism? Well, it's the ultimate question, right? According to the speakers, answering it means we have to completely move away from looking for a single, isolated trigger. For decades, people have argued over one isolated cause or another, but the source material insists that's just fundamentally the wrong way to look at it. We really need to zoom out and view it as a systemic, compounding issue.
Dave Asprey sums this up perfectly. He says, there isn't just one cause of autism, there's a recipe. I love that phrasing. It's not just a single thing going wrong out of nowhere. It's a very specific blend of vulnerabilities and exposures that combine to basically overload the body's systems.
Okay, here's our roadmap for unpacking this paradigm today. 1. The autism recipe concept. 2. Genetics and environmental triggers. 3. Mitochondria and gut health. 4. Rebuilding with biomedical interventions. And finally, 5. Reframing autism as efficiency. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The autism recipe concept.
Tracy uses a really powerful metaphor here to explain this systemic overload. Think of it like a loaded gun. These are pre-existing genetic vulnerabilities, like MTHFR, which is a super common gene mutation that affects detoxification, or even physical traits like hypermobility. These make a person uniquely susceptible. But here's the thing. A loaded gun doesn't just fire on its own. It needs a pulled trigger. These are the environmental factors, the oxidative stress, and the physical toxins that interact with those genetics to actually initiate the symptoms.
Section 2. Genetics and environmental triggers.
So what exactly are the ingredients pulling that trigger in our modern world? The source material neutrally lists a bunch of environmental triggers as systemic stressors. We're talking heavy metals, toxic mold-producing mycotoxins, the pesticide glyphosate in our food supply, and volatile organic compounds off-gassing in our homes. They also point to viral infections, general oxidative stress, and certain childhood vaccines. Now look, for a biologically resilient person encountering some of these stressors, totally fine. But for a child with that genetically loaded gun, layering these on creates an overwhelming toxic burden that their body just literally cannot clear out. To really anchor this concept in reality, Tracy shares the timeline of her own son, and it's a profound look at how some parents perceive the sudden onset of these stressors. At 0 months, her son was fully functioning, hitting milestones, walking and crawling early. Then, at 18 months, during a standard well-baby visit, he received the MMR and varicella vaccines. Within 24 hours, he broke out in a severe rash. And over the next 3 to 6 months, she watched the lights go out. He lost all his speech, he couldn't climb anymore, his gross motor skills just vanished. For Tracy, this was the exact moment the trigger was pulled on those underlying vulnerabilities.
Because so many of these triggers are environmental, Tracy and Dave really emphasize cleaning up your home environment, specifically eliminating hidden factors like volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. These are those harmful chemicals that constantly off-gas from everyday stuff: candles, artificial air fresheners, new furniture, carpets. They argue your home should literally smell like nothing. To combat this, they suggest tools ranging from switching to stainless steel or titanium cookware, all the way to, get this, using specialized chlorine dioxide bombs to completely sterilize a home of mold and bacterial VOCs inside the walls. It is absolutely wild how far they suggest going to secure the environment.
Section 3. Mitochondria and gut health.
So how do these environmental triggers actually mess with the body's systems once they get inside? Well, this brings us to mitochondria, the little energy engines inside almost all of our cells. Asprey suggests that the toxic recipe we just talked about causes a literal mitochondrial network collapse. Suddenly, the body's available energy just drops off a cliff. Think of a cell phone battery draining down to 1%. When this happens in a child, the brain lacks the raw power to effectively process reality. It creates a massive amount of static on the nervous system, turning everyday stuff, like the feeling of a clothing tag or a blinking light, into overwhelming, unmanageable noise.
And this builds directly into how the brain's immune system responds. Asprey uses a pretty brilliant analogy here. In the brain, neurons get all the attention. They are the rock stars. But the glial cells, or microglia, they are the roadies. They run around doing the maintenance, cleaning up, keeping the stage working. Issues like a leaky gut allow biotoxins and parasites to cross into the bloodstream and reach the brain, and this causes the brain's roadies to become chronically inflamed and totally overactive. So not only is the brain running on low power because of the mitochondrial collapse, but its internal maintenance crew is constantly panicking and creating massive neuroinflammation.
Section 4. Rebuilding with biomedical interventions.
With that biological framework in mind, let's explore the practical alternative medical interventions they propose. Tracy emphasizes a very specific chronological approach. You literally cannot just skip to the fancy treatments. Step 1, you have to lay a foundation by healing the gut. Step 2, clean the physical environment to remove ongoing toxic exposures and boost the immune system. Only after those foundations are totally locked in do you move to Step 3, which is pursuing advanced therapies like stem cells. Tracy claims that without laying the gut health foundation first, those advanced, super expensive therapies, they'll be far less effective.
A real game changer highlighted in the source is the use of plasmalogens, specifically through the work of Dr. Dan Goodenough. These are specialized nutritional supplements designed to repair damaged myelin, that's the protective white matter sheath around our neurons. But crucially, they also send signals to those panicked glial cells, the roadies we talked about, basically telling them to just chill out and calm down. Both speakers assert this therapy has shown absolutely incredible results. Tracy even shares awe-inspiring stories of completely non-speaking teenagers miraculously regaining their ability to speak after that neuroinflammation was dialed back.
When you look at the wide array of biomedical interventions discussed, they generally fall into 3 buckets. Nutritionally, you've got things like glutathione for detoxification and strict casein-free diets to stop milk proteins from acting like addictive morphine in the brain. Environmentally, you're looking at aggressive mold remediation and clean cookware. And for advanced medical treatments, they cover hyperbaric oxygen and stem cell therapy. Honestly, it reflects Tracy's immense dedication. She actually bartered, sold her belongings, and even partnered with the Cellular Performance Institute in Mexico to secure clinical trials for children on the spectrum.
30. That is the number of days it took after receiving stem cell therapy in Ukraine for Tracy's son to miraculously regain gross motor skills. A child who previously couldn't hang on to a monkey bar, balance on a half moon ball, or even tie his own shoes was suddenly doing all of it, just 30 days after the treatment. For Tracy, this was absolute, undeniable proof that the damage could be repaired.
Section 5. Reframing autism as efficiency.
Finally, let's look at how the speakers reframe the narrative around the autistic brain into something incredibly optimistic, moving way past just viewing it as a deficit. Asprey posits that the autistic brain is actually a highly evolved, meaning-making machine. As he puts it, it's not power in the brain that makes you intelligent, it's efficiency. Since these kids are operating with collapsed mitochondria, they're forced to evolve a brain that can somehow process reality on almost zero power, so it throws out social cues and facial recognition. It simply doesn't have the battery life for them, and focuses entirely on survival and pattern recognition.
So, the million-dollar question, what happens when you fix the underlying biology? Once the biological static is cleared out, the neuroinflammation goes down, and cellular energy is fully restored, that highly efficient brain is suddenly handed a massive power supply. According to Asprey, this is exactly why individuals on the spectrum, once their health is optimized, can allegedly tap into profound superpowers, holding massive amounts of information and seeing systems in ways normal brains simply can't.
Which leaves us with a totally fascinating thought. If addressing the toxic burden in our environment and fixing our cellular engines can pull someone out of severe developmental delay, what does that mean for the rest of us? If optimizing our cellular engines can unlock superpowers in a brain operating on low battery, just imagine what hidden human potential is waiting to be unlocked in you. It completely changes how we view the relationship between our modern world, our biology, and the true limits of the human mind.